What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's another episode of Alarm Fantasy Football. Happy Friday out there, everybody. I got Britt, Flinn. I got Andrew Cooper. We've been cruising through this whole week. I got to tell you guys, to be perfectly honest, this is easily my favorite show. Like I feel like, and you know, listen, I love Jim Bowden and I love doing the show on Sirius. But like the three of us, I just feel like we've got this like really cool family vibe going on right now. And I'm super pumped about it, which is why next week, while you two are going to be, you know, and the three of us actually are going to be debuting individual shows between this 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Hour block, we're still going to keep Alarm Fantasy Football on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Why? Because I don't want to give up the show with you guys. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. Look at Britt's all smiles. Coop's like, oh, I'm going to say something stupid about the Patriots and piss Howard off now. But you know, whatever.
We had such a good vibe going just now, Howard. It was so close, dude. It was so close.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It's a defense mechanism when things gets too serious.
I was ready to celebrate the wholesome moment. Sitting here just like this, Howard. And you brought the hammer down, and you pulled the temple down on all of us, Howard.
I'm
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
This is a lot of fun though. We have a lot of good chuckles on here, right, Britt?
And I will say that maybe this specific person who I've talked to about the show is a little bit biased. But it's his favorite show on either podcast or radio.
Yeah, it's Ani Coop's favorite show, that's for sure. Especially she loves Britt for supporting the Dodgers, and she hates Corey Parson, so he's not on the show, right? She'll text me after the show. She'll be like, Corey's got to be nicer to Britt. I'm like, I know, Ani Coop, I know.
And Ani Coop and I need Ani Coop's number. So
I probably should just connect you guys.
So the next season of The Masked Singer, we can discuss our theories.
Howard, I don't even watch The Masked Singer, and Ani Coop will text me and be like, "Tell Britt that I think The Masked Singer is this." I'm like, I do not care, and I will not. I will not tell her. Like, Britt will be like, "Tell Ani Coop, here's what I'm thinking." I'm like, dude, I absolutely couldn't care less who the Masked Singer is.
You got to set up that group chat and then quietly exit right out.
I truly should do that. Yeah, but shout out Ani Coop, she's the best. She watches all these shows, so.
Well, hi, Ani Coop. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. And I already see it in the chat. Chris Sellers. What's up, Sellers?
There he is, dude.
Yo, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. There's a lot of stuff going on. Now, one of the things, just to kind of carry you guys through what we're going to be talking about today, so that way everybody can kind of follow along. We're going to finally talk about that staff mock draft. I've got the write-up over at fantasyalarm.com. Don't shake your head, Coop. Listen, while I was sniping you viciously in this draft, I was doing it with the sole purpose of helping the family. And we'll explain all of that as we go into it. But we're going to be talking about the staff mock draft. We're going to be talking about how the odds, you know, you guys have been watching the show. Coop's been throwing down odds versus ADP. Britt's been talking odds versus ADP. We've been catching a lot of that stuff on the morning show and on this show. So we're going to be doing that, talking about whether or not the odds add up. We're going to be spicing things up here with our fantasy leagues. It's Flavor Friday. Britt, you want to introduce what Flavor Friday is today?
Yeah, so Flavor Friday, for one, it inspired me because I've been getting way too much fast food lately, doing all these shows, and haven't been able to cook. And everything that I get in fast food is just bland. It's just normal. And I end up adding a little bit of hot sauce to everything that I get. And I thought, why don't we do this to our fantasy leagues? So Flavor Friday is a way to talk about how to differentiate and spice up your leagues.
I like it. I'm going to shout it out to my boy Bo McBrayer, who does the live drafts in Scott Fishbowl with me. So we've gotten a little closer. He's got his hot box batch sauce, which is absolutely phenomenal stuff there. So in honor of Flavor Friday, Maybe we'll just have like Bo sponsor. Maybe what we'll do on a Friday is we'll end up bringing Bo on as a little bit of a guest. We're also going to be doing a little bit of a debate here tonight, which I love this debate. The question at hand, and you guys can chime in the chat, does PPR scoring dilute the strategy in fantasy football? And I am 100% all in to discuss that. Plus, if you guys ask some questions over at the fantasy football subreddit, at Coupe Fiasco. What's your Sauce McFloss? Is that your Reddit
no,
name?
that's my Xbox name. I'm a man of many names, Howard.
You are.
My name on Reddit is Coop. There it is. Coop. There it is.
Which is also wonderful.
Did you ever hear me and Jim Bowden interview one of the guys from Tag Team?
No, I did not. You had him on?
Like right when they had just busted out the commercial of Scoop.
Oh,
there it is.
So good, dude. So good.
We had him on the show because I mean he's a big sports guy. He loves fantasy. And so we ended up, doing like a little cross promotion with him, and it was phenomenal.
That's cool, dude.
Coop, there it is. I love that over on Reddit. So we're going to answer your questions throughout this show. Plus, we got another giveaway today, and this giveaway is going to be something fierce. We're talking about a $300 value. That's right. We're giving away a free entry to the fantasy championships over at rtsports.com. So get your trivia brains ready, because I think Britt and Coop have tag teamed this question. We got something really, really spicy coming up later on. So you're going to have to stay tuned. You're going to have to just stick with us for the whole show, because you don't know when we're going to drop that giveaway on you. But it's not coming right now, because what's happening right now, Coop?
I don't know. I'm tweeting.
Oh, well. That's right. It's time for a little bit of a top news around the NFL.
Over to you. Now we go to Britt Flinn for the Daily News.
Thank you guys for that marvelous introduction. There have been so many news pieces today, and I'm not just talking popcorn pieces. There have been so many pieces of news come out over the past hour that it was really hard to narrow this down. But the number one thing that I want to talk about is that we've discussed at length Saquon Barkley and his chances of holding out. But now the forefront, another top running back is threatening to do the same, with Josh Jacobs basically saying yesterday that he was refusing to sign his franchise tender. Who are we more worried about in the scheme of things, Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs? And Coop, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily Josh Jacobs. And the difference is, I mean, they've pretty much told us what the difference is. Josh Jacobs doesn't like what they're doing over there. He straight up said that he doesn't like the direction that the franchise has been going in, and he doesn't even want to be part of that franchise. Whereas Saquon Barkley has basically said he's playing the nice guy card. He's saying, I just want to be paid properly. I'm more than a running back, which he is. I love the Giants. I love New York. I want to be here, right? They want to give me 13 million. I just want 15. Is that big a difference? Is that big a deal? So Saquon, he actually wants to be there. Whereas Jacobs, I don't think he could care less, man. And the way they used Jacobs last year, I would be sitting there and looking around at guys like DeMarco Murray, who the Cowboys absolutely ran into the ground and then said, all right, see you later. And, he went to Eagles, Tennessee, and then his career was over. Like, if I'm Jacobs, I'm saying, why am I going to bust my hump again for this guy if they don't want to pay me? So Jacobs, there is a little concern there. Whereas Barkley, I think they figure it out.
I mean, I don't really, I don't fear the holdout, because while, yeah, Jacobs could turn around and be like, I don't want to be here with you guys or whatever. We all know what quitting on your team is all about, and holding out, on your team. And it's not a good look, first and foremost. And then, on top of that, who's going to want to pay you after that? Nobody's going to want to pay you after that. I think impact wise from a fantasy standpoint, because I don't believe that Saquon's going to hold out. Like Coop said, they're like $2 million apart. Please. I mean, that's sitting in Brian Daboll's sock right now with what they paid him to come and coach in New York. So I'm not so much worried about that. I don't think Jacobs would hold out. What would be a bummer is and I'll say this, for keeper league people, because last year Josh Jacobs was like an 8th round pick. Nobody was touching Josh Jacobs. And even in a keeper league, let's say you were keeping like 3 or 4 guys, Jacobs was probably like a 2nd round pick the year before that. And so nobody was taking him or nobody was going to protect him. So now all of a sudden you're looking at, okay, I've got an 8th round value here in Josh Jacobs. So I want to keep him. The dude's going to run no matter, like if he plays, they're going to run him into the ground. He's not going to turn around and be like, no, I'm not going to do this because, whatever. I mean, what do you really think? Do you think he could possibly do that, Coop? You think he can half-ass it on the field?
No, I'm saying you're right. That there's no such thing, right? Like you can't just go out there and lie down as a running back. It'd be the most obvious thing in the world, right?
It would be. I mean, that's why I was totally in on him last year. I was like, if they're not picking up his 5th-year option, that dude's getting 300+ carries, no doubt.
Well, and I think that 5th-year option is the crux of the argument because the Giants want to keep Saquon, and he still has at least a few more years, theoretically, with that team. What they did to Jacobs last season, both in not picking up his option and running him into the ground, if he doesn't sign his franchise tag and is let go and becomes a semi-free agent, we talked about it on the Better Morning Show today. How many of these running backs are already out there in the free agent pool who haven't been signed? What are the odds that somebody is going to pick him up and pay him the money that he wants? So I think that there's a lot of layers to this onion, and it's very interesting.
They need an RB union. They need a union within the union.
The union within the union. I think the Raiders could turn around if Jacobs doesn't sign his tender. I think the Raiders definitely come into play for Dalvin Cook, or they come into play for Ezekiel Elliott, or even, Leonard Fournette. I think one of those 3 guys is going to land with the Raiders if he doesn't sign. So you're still going to have somebody in there who the team's going to want to still run into the ground. Like, we know that that's what Josh McDaniels wants to do. So, we're still going to get a Vegas running back who's going to get a heavy workload. Maybe not as much if it's going to be Zeke because, he's like old and broken.
Oh, my God.
What? I'm sorry. Did I say something?
He's not old and broken.
He's old and broken. He's broken.
Okay, bastard. Well, I'm going to transition with a team who you both think that Ezekiel Elliott might end up on. And there is yet another unhappy running back on this particular team, and it is Austin Eckler with the Chargers. He appeared on the Rich Eisen show and still appears to be very frustrated with his contract, saying that I'm looking at some of the backup receivers out here that are making more than me, and it's going to piss me off, right? So do you think that they are going to bring somebody in just to kind of be like, well, you're not getting these carries. Well, you're not as valuable. Or do you think that they figure something out with Eckler, who's been a perennial top back in this league? And Howard, this time I'll start with you.
I think regardless of Eckler popping off right now, the team was looking to bring somebody else in because you have to have a short yardage guy and somebody who you can trust to run between the tackles, and that's not Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly is like, I'm going to change and be a change of pace guy and give our primary between the tackles guy a breather, but that's really kind of it. So I think they're bringing somebody in. But this kind of spells into just an inherent problem around the NFL, like we talked about. Coop, when Evan Engram retweeted you last year because you made the comment about a wide receiver 3 or 4 making more money than a top tight end. And what's going on there? Teams aren't paying running backs. I mean, literally all of every team's money is being invested in defensive players and quarterbacks.
It is. Oh, sorry. I thought you
were no, please go.
I was gonna say it is crazy though, because like what I said with Engram, I was like, this guy is a slot receiver. That is one of, if you really think about it, people are in their mind, they're like, Engram's not a good blocker, right? But he's not a good blocker as a tight end. As a slot receiver, he's one of the better blockers, right? Think about Travis Kelce. This guy is a wide receiver, and he's also an amazing run blocker, right? Compared to wide receivers. These guys should be getting more money. Like Belichick figured it out a while ago when he was paying corners to play safety, and he was having the highest paid safety, the highest paid tight end in the league, the highest paid kickers and punters. He's looking at the positions where the league doesn't value them, so you can get the best one, and it doesn't cost you as much as the wide receivers. I mean, the one time they did get a wide receiver, he caught 23 touchdowns, but so that might not have been a good idea, but he was ahead on the other front. With Austin Eckler, I actually just tweeted yesterday, I pulled up the stats. Everyone calls Deebo Samuel like a wide back, right? Because he gets all these carries. Over the last 4 years, Deebo Samuel's been in the league for 4 years. Deebo Samuel over that period has 340 targets, 123 carries. 123 carries, that's a lot. Austin Eckler over that period has 394 targets and 658 carries. So who's the real wide back? This guy's got more targets than Deebo Samuel. Over the last 4 years, Austin Eckler's in the top 30 players for targets. This guy is, I mean, we're talking, he's number 28 on the list. Oh, and with wide receivers, it's crazy, man. So when he says that, when Saquon says I'm more than running back, these guys are right, man. Like these guys in particular are being used that way. So pay that, the words of, I believe it's Rounders, pay that man his money.
Pay that man his money.
Yep. And I think we could discuss this, but I'm just going to throw this out here. We don't have time for discussion on it, but I think that there needs to be kind of a sliding scale. And that's something that the NFLPA should discuss in their next arbitration agreement. If you play X amount in this role, if you get X amount of targets, if you do this, like for tight ends, for example, if you get targeted like this and don't block like this, for running backs, if you get targeted and only have this many carries, there needs to be a sliding scale because not every player is created equal. And that's what's causing this division in the pay scale. And something needs to be addressed about it. And again, like I said, we can go on and on about it, but we don't have time. So I'm just going to switch over. Ern, do you got the popcorn? Because I think we've got some popcorn.
Pop it up, Ern Dog. There we go, dude. All right. What do we have for fluff today?
Where's the fluff?
So after the ESPYs, Chris Jones posted that he enjoyed hanging with his boys. And DeAndre Hopkins posted a comment underneath it saying like something, can't wait to be there or hope that I'm there. And then Chris Jones retweeted or responded with the fingers crossed and a thumbs up. So do you think that that is going to be something that the Chiefs make work? Or do you think that it's just wishful thinking? And Coop, I'll go back to you.
Oh boy, that would be something. Howard, I know you've talked about how amazing that would be for fantasy football. And I actually, now that the Patriots aren't front runners and top dogs, I think it would actually be really funny. Because like as previously with Tom Brady and stuff, it's like, no, we don't want the Chiefs to be that good. But if the Chiefs are just going to keep winning and waste the windows of guys like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, that to me is kind of funny. So maybe DeAndre Hopkins
waste the window of Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. That's spoken like a true Pats fan right there.
Oopsies.
Well, and a Treylon Burks fan. Please go to Kansas City.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. For all the Chigakonkwo lovers out there.
I need it bad, dude. I need it real bad. So,
listen, I said this was a perfect landing spot for him, ages ago. I would love to see it happen because you know what it was? I'll tell you exactly what it's like, Coop. It's like when Tom Brady was gifted Randy Moss.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, you're gifting DeAndre Hopkins to Patrick Mahomes. And he deserves it. He definitely deserves it. Listen, what he's done and how he's made things work with the receivers that he's had. And listen, I love Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill is just crazy, crazy good. And Mahomes and him were unreal. But, we also had Tyreek Hill dealing with a lot of injuries at that point too. So I'm just enamored with the possibility. And that's not just because I've stacked Mahomes and Kelsey with other players. And I have lots of shots. I'm like super giddy. I've had this amazing day today. I've like been working my ass off since 4 a.m. today. I've been getting all this crazy work done. I'm doing this show with you guys. I'm getting great news on the personal front from friends and family. And so I'm like, this is like DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City would be the just the cherry on top of my sundae. And I got like an ice cream ring right around my mouth right now.
Beautiful, dude.
I stepped in cat Cheetos, and I'm still not mad because the day has been so good.
Just one of those days, dude. Hey, well, since we're in such a good mood,
are you a cat owner at all?
No, but my sister's got cats, and cats are fine. I like cats.
Does she have
dogs.
a dog
They're
too?
Cool. She's got 2. She has, dude. Her dogs are practically horses. She's
got. Do the dogs eat out of the litter box and drag out cat Cheetos?
They do.
Yes, so you get it.
That's the way dogs.
We call that because they're called cat Cheetos in Britt's household. In my household, it's just called almond roca because of the way it looks. So hit your sister up there and ask her what she calls it.
I'll see what they're called over there. Since we're in such a good mood, Britt, I gotta ask: do we let this Kyle Phillips truther onto our Tennessee bandwagon, or does he not get a seat?
I mean, you can be a truther about Kyle Phillips. I think that his athletic profile is a lot less than Treylon Burks. I think that he'll be a piece, but it's going to be like a Nick Westbrook-Ikhine situation. I don't think that offense facilitates the volume that Kyle Phillips needs. But you know what? Go get your guy. I'm not going to tell anybody that they're wrong.
All right, you can come on. You can come on, but you got to sit in the back. Yeah, it's like one of those. It's like one of those wagons with the seats that face the backwards out the back. That's where you're sitting for this one. First man out. But since we're in a good mood, you're on, Dustin. Hop on the boat.
I love it. All right, so I'm going to move on to something in Coop's wheelhouse and bring up the Patriots. I know that Howard did not want me to do this, but the Boston Globe has suggested that Bill Belichick's friends say that this may be a make or break season for the Hall of Fame coach. Is this just a scorned writer looking for clickbait, or is there something to this after not making the playoffs without Tom Brady?
Let me take a look at who wrote this. Oh, Connor Ryan. He's actually there because there are some people. The thing with Boston is that there's a list of people that when they say something, you just say, never mind, right? Like if it comes from Michael Felger or Tony Maserati, you can just ignore it. If it comes from Evan Lazar or a few of these guys, right, then you're in. But there could be a little smoke to this. But I think I think that at this point he's kind of like godfathered in. If it's a make or break situation for Belichick, I'm wondering if maybe he's going to either retire or he's going to ask to go somewhere else. Because I just think at this point with Robert Kraft and and Jonathan Kraft, there's no way they could come out and just say you're fired. Right. But this isn't a Jerry Jones firing Tom Landry type situation. Like he's done so much here that he kind of has a key to the city, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't think there's any chance they just tell Belichick, force him out or anything like that. No,
I mean, I think he walks away on his own. And I think that everybody would be fine with him walking away on his own. I think he's still lingering right now because that whole like, well, Brady left you and you didn't make the playoffs and he's won a Super Bowl and that kind of a thing. But I mean, it's different. It's so much of a different situation, so much of a different story. Tom Brady running that offense in Tampa Bay with weapons like Godwin and Mike Evans and Cameron Brate, like even the fringe receivers. The fringe receivers on Tampa Bay are probably better than the number 1 and number 2 receivers for New England. So I think he's kind of lingered into doing that. But I think that if there are issues at all this year, I think he'll just happily walk away on his own. I think he's definitely earned it. Right. And I don't even think that I don't think he would be good for broadcasting with the way he mumbles anyway. So maybe he's like, maybe he serves as a consultant somewhere. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just sits there and he works behind the scenes as like a director of player personnel or something like that. But
maybe he'll write a book on how to run like the Navy triple option with 3 fullbacks, like he's always wanted to, right? Like he'll go to Navy. A tell-all Bill Belichick book would be amazing.
Yeah.
With the dog as the ghostwriter.
I just want to know exactly what Ernie Adams did. Like, what was his job? Like, I feel like that guy was an absolute mystery man, just down in the basement of Gillette doing something top secret. But what is it that Ernie Adams worked with him with the Browns, and then for like he just retired for like he worked 25 years with the Patriots. What? And no one has any idea what that guy does. No one has any idea. What even was his title?
Spygate.
I mean,
aficionado.
Honestly, that actually might be what he does, dude.
Head videographer.
Yeah,
yes.
Nobody knows, dude. Ernie Adams, the most mysterious man in football.
All right, so speaking about another mysterious man, but not mysterious because we know his skill set, just mysterious in the way that we think that he's going to be used. Antonio Gibson came out and said that he wants to line up more at wide receiver this season and thinks that he, quote, hasn't shown his position. Are we juicing him even more in our fantasy drafts than we already have been? And this question is purely for me because we know that I have been juicing Antonio Gibson, but this just confirms my bias. Howard, what do you think?
I think that I will just verbally retweet anything and everything Britt Flinn has said in recent times here. But I mean, listen, it makes sense. Eric Bieniemy is going to bring that Chiefs offense over. I actually had this debate with Jim Bowden on the alarm show yesterday. He's like Mr. Brian Robinson. He thinks that Brian Robinson is going to be or can be or should be a 3-down back for Washington. I'm like, the dude doesn't catch passes. Right. I mean, his yards after contact are not great either. So, I think that Gibson is much more of a dynamic player than Brian Robinson. The thing is that he has been completely misused in this offense since the day he showed up to camp in Washington. You can't tell me that a hybrid wide receiver running back from Memphis, all right, is going to come into the NFL and you're not going to target him at all. So I think that was kind of an issue there. I don't think he fit well with the scheme. I think he fits well with Bieniemy's scheme. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, obviously, yes, he wants to line up more as a wide receiver because who else is there? You got Terry McLaurin, you got Jahan Dotson. You need somebody else in there. So you might as well try and use Gibson at the slot.
No, yeah, that's what we say every single year. And we convince ourselves every single year. And I fall for it all the time. And it never, ever happens. Tony Pollard, going to play the slot. Kareem Hunt, going to play the slot. The only wide receiver the only running back over the last 5 years to run even 100 routes from the slot was Tariq Cohen. You know who the leader is over the last 2 years in running back slot routes? Kyle Juszczyk. There's
insane.
Running backs do not play the slot.
Not fair.
Last year, Christian McCaffrey was one, obviously, because he's probably the only dude that actually can play slot receiver because he's amazing. Number 2 was Juszczyk, right? And on the list at 4 was Patrick Ricard, another fullback. It's like running backs don't play slot. The problem you run into is it sounds like a great idea until you get into camp and there are professional slot wide receivers on the team who are just better at playing their own position. So as much as I love you, Britt, I do think he's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield, but Curtis Samuel might be better at catching passes out of the backfield than he is, and definitely out of the slot. So if Curtis Samuel goes down, maybe. But if anything, I'd be worried that Curtis Samuel is going to take some of his snaps in the backfield.
Well, you brought up Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard, even though he didn't line up in the slot, still had 55 targets last season.
That's fine.
And I think that is really going to lend itself to, even if this scheme doesn't work out exactly how we think that it's going to work out, he's still going to get targets. He's a good receiver.
I think they're going to get targets, but playing slot wide receiver is the dream that everyone, like every year, like he's going to play wide receiver, and then they don't.
Every time, any position there, right? Kyle Pitts. Oh, he's going to be in the slot the entire time. He's not going to line up as a tight end. I'm going to throw this to you, Britt. Would you rather invest in Samaje Perine as the pass-catching back in a Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi system, or Antonio Gibson in Eric Bieniemy's new system in Washington?
Okay, so if you're asking me just straight up, like no ADP involved, it's going to be Perine.
Okay.
But there's still been such a gap between Gibson and Perine that I've been able to get both of them. So just cue that meme. Why not both?
Why not both?
You know who's third in slot snaps? The guy that I like in that range, Devin Singletary. Why is Devin Singletary playing the slot? I don't know.
I like him too. But they got Tank Dell, and Tank Dell's going to be it. But anyway, we've got to move on. We can't. We've talked enough.
Little tiny Tank Dell.
He's the quintessential slot. He's a tiny man and who's fast. Like
I got some Tank Dell on me.
Anyway, speaking of tiny men,
right here too.
There he is. I'm looking for you.
Oh, hi, Danny Woodhead. He's all the way down here.
Hanging out with Rondell Moore.
Speaking of tiny men and tiny children, former Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers is expecting his 10th child. He can now field a football team with
There it is.
his family. Do you
Unbelievable.
think that should factor into any of his Hall of Fame consideration? Because that man
is Hall of Fame consideration.
He's definitely in that. It's him versus Antonio Cromartie right now for the go when it comes to having kids, right?
I'm gonna say
it's a loaded question,
and this is probably going to be massively offensive to the entire world there. But when it comes to this story, I think the true Hall of Famer is Phillip Rivers' wife's vagina. All right, because squeezing out 10 kids, come on,
that's really? Putting in work. 10 kids, dude. That's wild, man.
I've got friends who had like 2 kids, and the second one comes out, and they're like, I should not have done this again. I swore I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do it, and I just did it again. I cannot imagine this poor woman in 10 kids.
I'll tell you what, if inflation doesn't come down, Phillip Rivers might have to suit back up next season because he's going to go broke on Easter. Like, well, the egg. Have you seen egg prices, Howard? With the 10 kids, dude, he's gonna have to suit him back up, brother.
Right? That many eggs in this economy?
In this economy, dude?
Yeah. Yep. No, exactly. But I just wanted to throw that in there because that was funny.
Do we know Phillip's kids' names? Are they? Is this like George Foreman, where all the boys are named Phil and all the girls are named Filipina?
It's like Rugnet Odor, where everyone's named Rugnet Odor. Have you ever seen that? His brother, his dad, his uncle.
Angie Hatfield in the chat right there. 100. His wife is the MVP. She's so the MVP.
True, truly.
She's so. Can we bring that picture? I want to see that picture again. Bring that picture back up here.
His family's beautiful.
His family is gorgeous, absolutely. But look at the look of fear in his wife's face. Like you can just see that right now. She's like, really? I got to do this again? Oh no!
Little Tanner and Connor and Hunter and Banner and.
Oh man!
It is a beautiful, beautiful family, 100%. But wow, that's brutal.
Stay off her, Phil.
That's brutal. Oh man.
I had something to say and then totally forgot. So that's the news for today. Let's move on to our next segment. Howard, I'm handing it over to you.
Before we do that, before we move into this next segment, let's just shout out to our friends over at the RT Sports World. RT Sports Best Ball Championship, guys. You got to start playing it. You gotta. I mean, these drafts are fantastic. It's only $20 to get in there. They do pay out each individual league. And then you win a chance to win $25,000. And the best part is like these little best ball drafts that you're doing, they're just 10 teamers. So you're putting together a fantastic. I mean, listen, after doing 12 and 14 team leagues, it's going to blow your mind what your team's going to look like at the end of a 10 teamer. So I highly recommend it. Like I said, $25,000 grand prize, only a $20 entry fee. You can enjoy the draft, get your best possible lineup each week automatically set for you. Live drafts taking place every night, so you can just kind of go along with whatever your schedule permits you to do. And we've got an exclusive offer right now, 100% deposit match up to $200. Just go to rtsports.com/alarm. Use that promo code alarm23. And that'll lock it in. So again, rtsports.com/alarm, and then use promo code alarm23 to get that 100% match deposit up to $200. And always, please play responsibly. And if you do know somebody who kind of needs a little help, and maybe that might be you, even dial 1-800-GAMBLER and just kind of take care of that. So big shout out to them. Again, later on in the show, we're giving away a $300 entry to their fantasy football championships as well. And that's $500,000 total big ass prize. So, but that giveaway is coming a little later on. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about our staff mock draft that we did over at fantasyalarm.com. You can go over there. I've got the full write-up over there. It says it's part of the draft guide, but somebody might have made it free so that everybody can see it. Because listen, I love doing this mock draft. We'll get to like the details, the prelims and stuff. Britt was picking first overall. Coop, you were what, 8th, 9th?
I don't know.
No.
I was just upset because you got sniped so much.
I was 8.
Well, I did it with purpose. All right, so here's what I was did. 9th. And you guys can read all about this.
Tell everyone what you did, Howard.
I'm going to. I did my regular draft with the first several picks, and then I started looking at, those middle rounds. And my thought process is well, Coop's got next to his name the title of lead NFL analyst over at fantasyalarm.com. So this is like testing your best player, right? So I decided that for the middle rounds of the draft towards the tail end, I was going to do nothing but snipe Coop's picks. Like, I've read all of his stuff and I've seen all of his tweets and, Devin Singletary and Michael Thomas, like every single player that Coop was hyping up, even the tight ends not named Chigakonkwo. And I did that with the sole purpose of not just winning the mock, but also to see where Coop pivots to, because that's the important thing. Because we're going to give you names. We're going to tell you where to draft them, what round, things like that. You're going to get the cheat sheet. You're going to be like, wow, that's great. What happens, though, if you ask Coop for a couple of mid-round sleepers and he gives you Devin Singletary and Michael Thomas and Dalton Schultz, but somebody else takes those guys? Where else are you looking? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to dive into the mind of Andrew Cooper and see where he would pivot to if all of his guys were suddenly not available to him. And Coop, I think you did a good job.
Well, let's take a peek then here at what we got going on. Why don't we? Yeah. Next year, can you please pick somebody else to attack for this?
Sure. Oh, believe me, listen, we're going to be doing multiple mock drafts. You keep smiling, Britt, but I know who you like. I'll make sure I'm right next to you in the draft too.
Oh, yeah. Challenge accepted.
But here you go. You can see it right in the middle. I was on the wheel right after my Cortland Sutton pick, Michael Thomas, Devin Singletary, Dalton Schultz, Tyler Higbee. So now you go over to Coop's team and you got to look and see where he went for like round 9. It was like, all right, so he took, Juju, you took in the 8th ahead of me, but then you went Fournette, you went Elliott, you went Jawan Johnson. Explain the picks of the unsigned running backs. Why'd you do it?
Yeah, so here's how my draft went. Started off Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Both these guys, I mean, they were wide receiver 2 and 3 in targets last year. And when you look at, just from a simple 1,000-foot distance look at it, Vegas also has them once again set at like 1,300 yards. So I look at it and say, okay, these are 2 incredibly safe picks I'm going to start out with. And then once I took Breece Hall and Joe Mixon, I just thought to myself, all right, how many, like, I'm taking incredibly risky guys. How many risky running backs can I take before all of a sudden now I have so many options that it's no longer risky? So with Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, who I know people are quote unquote doubt on him, but I think he can still get to 1,000 yards like he has every single season. Again, that's where the books are setting him. I think that he might be able to elevate Baker Mayfield just enough to get him there. So I'm confident with him at wide receiver 3 or Juju, right? There's 3 wide receiver spots. That's all I really need. So I loaded up and took Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, who, now that it's a misdemeanor, might not get a crazy suspension, Leonard Fournette, Zeke Elliott. And I'm basically saying, hey, I have 6 guys here at running back that are high risk, high reward, and I just need 2 of them to hit, really. 2 of those guys hit, and I'm good. So if I had just gone a couple of those guys, maybe just 3 or 4, now I'm taking risky guys, and I don't have a lot of shots. The more shots you get at upside, the more likely it is to hit. So that's where I ended up going. Obviously, I would have taken Singletary there 100% to give myself a little more safety. But once my guys started going early, which can happen, as you demonstrated, you got to pivot and come up with a new plan. So that's where I went. High risk, high reward at running back with safety at, I got Justin Herbert, who's very safe. I have 4 wide receivers that are very safe. Tight end, I'll figure out because I'm contractually obligated to figure it out. So that's where I went, right?
Yeah, don't think that you did bad. We talked about it on a Better Morning Show this morning, that we think that these guys who are still out in the free agent pool are going to be signed by week 1. They might not have a complete starting role, but they're still far from completely washed. I mean, they still have a lot of value to give. And depending on how you pair them up and what team they land on, I think that they can offer a lot of value at where you got them in ADP. So I like that pivot, Coop.
Yeah. And one thing I will say to everybody out there listening right now, and we actually are giving away a $300 entry where you can win $500,000 at RT Sports. Every one of these sites has different ADP. And that's why I love doing mocks on RT Sports and doing the leagues on RT Sports, because you're getting a different look at the rankings in the system. So the first thing I do, and Howard taught me this the first time I did a mock on RT Sports, because Howard was pulling all these guys from way down in the ADP, way down in the rankings. And I was like, damn, I didn't even see that guy. So now every time I go on this site or any other site, I go in and I put a bunch of guys in the queue, right? And I start thinking about them too extra early. Whoever wins our giveaway here, or anybody that just wants to get in on it, you can get a huge advantage compared to everybody else, that's not used to these ADPs. So that's why I love doing the mocks on RT Sports, and I love getting into those big contests, because you can take big advantage of that.
Yeah, that's definitely something. And that's a lesson to be learned for everybody out there. Oh, you've got 10 leagues on Sleeper. Okay, that's great. But what happens when, your buddy signs you up for a league and you're ended up, drafting for the first time on Yahoo, or drafted for the first time on ESPN, or going to, to RT Sports, whatever the case may be, the default rankings that they have in the system are just basically they're what the rankings are for that particular website, because even if they're pulling ADP, they're pulling ADP off of all the drafts that take place on their site. And let's face facts. How many times have you been in a mock draft and, half the room leaves after the 3rd round? Then what happens? Then everybody goes on to auto pick, and it's just pulling off of the site's default rankings. So you always have to make sure. Which is why I hate when people jump into a draft and they go into the room like 3 minutes before the draft is actually about to start. And then they're like, the first comment on their mind, in their minds are, whoa, what the hell's up with these rankings? Right? Yeah, I'm looking at you, John and Pemba, during the mock. Yeah, you chimed in with that. Come in early, find the deeper guys, see where everybody is on this, and make sure that you move them into your queue. So that way it's fresh, it's right there, and you can do that. Let's turn to Britt's team, because we don't need to turn to my team, because we know that, what I did was, to play the role of the saboteur.
Hey, that was my nickname as a freshman in undergrad. That's
saboteur.
Funny.
Wow.
The saboteur.
My psych professor gave that name to me.
Oh, interesting.
Very
it's all making sense now, Howard.
Right, gonna jot that down.
Before we go to Britt's team, I just want to give shout out Better Boss saying move Richie James up. I actually have been meaning to tell you, because I know you are the number one Richie James fan. There's some new stats out there that are the expected stats, where you see them in baseball too, where it's like, if everything were independent, what the outcome would be, which a lot of them take machine learning to do. I was looking at the NFL's next gen stats, which is basically a catch rate over expected to come up with the most reliable pass catchers. Number one on the list, based on this machine learning metric, was Richie James. I was like, I can't believe this. Like, the rest of the list is good players too. It's like Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins and Devonta Smith and Stephon Diggs. Number one is Richie James. So, hey, maybe you're onto something, Better Boss. Maybe you're onto something.
Or maybe we're just going to say that the next gen stats need a little bit of work.
A little tweaking.
Just a little tweak. Just wrench it just a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt. Britt, tell us what went down over at, you had the first pick, right?
I did. So I'll add my comments on the Richie James take later, because
no, you can't set it up like that. I want to hear the comments on the Richie James take.
Yeah, let's hear it now.
I just think maybe that with the Giants receiving core, the results may have been a little bit skewed.
The saboteur strikes again.
The saboteur, ladies.
Yanking the heart out of our own Matt Deutsch.
I'm not saying definitively.
Unbelievable.
Again, I need
Britt.
to look into it more, but I'm thinking that maybe that's the situation.
You
but no,
don't need to look into it more.
So going with number 1 overall, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in our next segment. But I was really debating taking Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, because according to Bob Lung, who does the consistency guide and puts on the Fantasy Football Expo and just does excellent work all over the place, he believes that Chase is the more consistent of the two and has the higher upside. In this mock, I didn't want to just kind of go crazy like that guy taking Tim Tebow in the first. You know what I mean? I just wanted to go consistent. I know that Jefferson has a high upside. Whether he ends up as 1 or 2 is kind of immaterial to me. So I went with him. And then I kind of just did what I do in a lot of my drafts. I got my anchor in 3rd. I got a very high upside quarterback, and then started filling out different positions. I got Gibson and Pirine in back-to-back rounds, like I spoke about earlier, which I love. Handcuffed Najee Harris with Jalen Warren. Had to take Kenneth Gainwell because if I hadn't, Sellers would not have shut up about it.
Was he like breathing down your neck during the box? Like, take Gainwell. Like since like the 5th round, he's like, take Gainwell, take Gainwell.
Putting fingerprints on the screen, just like poking.
Here, right there, take Gainwell.
Yes, I literally wake up in the middle of the night and hear screams, and it's not a banshee. It's just somebody going, Gainwell. But then since I took Kyle Pitts and since I took such a high upside quarterback, I didn't really feel like I needed to secure those positions. So that's why I just left 1. I did grab Laporta, though, because I am concerned a little bit about Kyle Pitts' health and his ability or his availability to come back in week 1. So I wanted to shore that up.
With that Laporta pick, Howard, I needed a tight end, and Howard knew it. He smelled blood in the water, so he went back to back Schultz and Higbee. So I was like, just a quick thought process here. I went Leonard Fournette, and then I was gonna take one of Schultz or Higbee. Howard took them both, so I was like, screw it, I'm taking Zeke. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm just gonna get Laporta next round. And then you took Laporta, so the two of you guys at the ends of this draft, man, just completely skewered me. Go on.
That's a great lesson, to never think that somebody is going to come back to you. If you think that you need this guy and that this is the person that you want, take them in your draft. And we have seen that in Scott Fishbowl. Hayden Hurst got picked in the 14th round in my draft, and he was in my queue. I let out an audible scream because I was like, there's no way he's going to go here, but he did. So just like get your guys, you know. Then I finished up kind of lame. Broncos, kicker, altitude, whatever. Chiefs.
But see, you know what? So you throw that statement away though about the altitude. That's something that like you and me and Coop take for granted. Bob from accounting has no, like, the thought process isn't there as far as like, oh, higher altitude. Ball travels further. That's listen, I loved having Brandon McManus as my kicker for years. Absolutely.
Yeah. And with Sean McVay and having, you know, hopefully much more offensive or effective offense. Yeah, he's going to get lots of opportunity. Then the Chiefs, I kind of like what they did with their defense in like a sneaky way. And then I had to take one Cowboy on my roster to finish it off with Michael Gallup.
You taking 2 defenses to game the rankings.
It's not 2 defenses. One's a kicker and one.
Oh, okay, kicker and defense. Okay, that's fair.
No. So actually, sorry, I got the colors mixed up. I took the Broncos defense, but I took the Chiefs kicker.
Okay,
that's the color legend. But either way,
Butker.
Did they give us scores? Don't we usually get scores when we do these?
Yeah, usually I don't even bother. I don't even bother like clicking the button because I know that there's like a fantasy alarm, evaluator on there. But listen, for those of you keeping score at home, draft evaluators, draft grades, everything like that, stupid.
Even
don't
ours
mean a thing.
For me, if I click it and my team is like ranked 1, then it's a good evaluator.
You know you're in trouble.
No,
Yep.
but if Yahoo gives you an A+, then you had a terrible draft. I'm telling you right now, if anyone gets an A+ on Yahoo, because you have to draft like 2 kickers and 2 defenses. Like if you get an A+ from Yahoo, then pack it up, dude. You want to live in that C- range, dude. That's where the stars are.
You do. You definitely do. All right. Well, let's listen, guys, the and girls, the mock draft write-up is over there at fantasyalarm.com. It says it's part of the draft guide, which it is part of the draft guide. But you know what? This was like, for me, this was a fun mock, and this was something great to see. Like, watching Coop's reaction. Again, yeah, Britt, we'll do another mock next week, and
see what happens.
Watching you.
I got you.
Make your Twitter private the week before. That's the trick, dude. Because my tweets, Howard was posting my tweets in the article.
In the article,
read it.
I had to do it. So, but go and check that out. No doubt about it. We'll be doing more mock drafts as the draft season continues. In the meantime, here, let's talk about other draft season tools that we like to deal with. And here we go. We've been talking a lot about what the Vegas lines look like, what the ADP looks like. Who wants to start this one off here? Which one of you? Britt?
I'll just jump in because I know that Coop has been looking at Vegas lines as far as like yardage and things like that, but I wanted to look at the Vegas lines as far as like offensive player of the year and kind of compare that to ADP. Mm-hmm. And I found some really interesting nuggets in here. And I just wanted to see if you guys agree with what Vegas is saying or with what the ADP is saying. And all these odds are coming off FanDuel, but the first one that I saw that just jumped immediately right out at me was Jamar Chase at plus 1,200 has better odds than Justin Jefferson at plus 1,400 for offensive player of the year. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about the mock draft. I was debating taking Chase over Jefferson. He's the consensus 101, but should we be open to Jamar Chase as possibly the #1 overall pick?
I'll go first because I know Howard has the full take because I've seen Howard take Jamar Chase at 101. So I know that Howard is in there, but I'll just throw this in there in terms of these awards, in that these old heads that pick the awards, they simply cannot separate wins from the equation. The success of the team is always part of it. And with MVP, it's often the tiebreaker, right? But they simply can't get it out of their heads that it's an individual award. So if these guys are both amazing and the Bengals are better than the Vikings, then the old heads are going to give the award to Jamar Chase. I think that's why the odds are a little better for him. But Howard, go ahead and tell us why Jamar Chase is the 101.
To me, Jamar Chase is the 101 here. Listen, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with Minnesota that's still kind of left up in the air. We know that they're going to want to force feed targets to Justin Jefferson 100%. But what you're also looking at is the fact that you're relying now on maybe it's Jordan Addison, a rookie. Maybe it's KJ Osborne, kind of a unproven, better off in the slot kind of a guy. And yeah, there's TJ Hawkinson there, but what you're looking at is you're looking at double teams, you're looking at top corners, you're looking at floating safety help. You're going to do all of this here against Justin Jefferson, not to mention the fact that, Kirk Cousins is the guy throwing him the ball. So in Cincinnati, yes, there's competition with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, but we know that Burrow and Chase have that relationship. We've seen it before. What we've also seen before now is that teams are putting their top corner on T. Higgins so that they feel more comfortable about floating the safety help on top of Jamar Chase. And we saw him burn that kind of coverage time and time again. Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. And I feel like what we're seeing here now, Justin Jefferson was phenomenal last year. But are we saying that he's going to do exactly the same? Are we saying that he's going to plateau at that level? Or will defenses be continuously keying in on him more and it kind of pulls off? You don't have that, luxury going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. They're more, consistent. stronger receiving weapons around Chase, who is just a dynamic performer of his own right. So, yeah, I mean, I think to me, I think Chase has another gear to kick into. I think we've seen the ceiling for Justin Jefferson right now.
Any sort of, I gotta say real quick, in any sort of keeper or dynasty, especially, I don't know how people could have Justin Jefferson ahead, because this Bengals team is built. It's done, right? They completed it, and they're all young. Joe Burrow's 26. Kirk Cousins is going to be 35 next year, and the temple is crumbling around them over there. Justin Jefferson, no matter what happens, he's not going to have Kirk Cousins for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whereas Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow might play together forever. So in any sort of dynasty or keeper, it's Jamar Chase by far.
And they're best friends, and you know how we love a best friends narrative. Something else that also stuck out to me was that Nick Chubb is at plus 2,000, but he's the second running back behind Christian McCaffrey at plus 1,600. But he's going as the RB6 to McCaffrey's RB1. And this is kind of hinting at a segment that we've got going on next hour. But are we letting PPR scoring skew Chubb's value? And Howard, I know how much you love Chubb, so I'm going to go with you first.
I do love me some Nick Chubb. There's no doubt about it. Happily, listen, you know what? Like Kevin Tompkins and I, we fought, right? Nobody saw it. We didn't publicize it. Nobody got video of it, but we fought over that whole Nick Chubb's not a league winner kind of a thing. Listen, that's the problem, is that everybody is so hell-bent on the PPR format of saying, a running back who doesn't catch passes is useless. The dude ran for over 1,500 yards last year, double-digit touchdowns. The dude is an absolute stud. He is the bell cow back. They've had Kareem Hunt. Remember how the last 2 years, Kareem Hunt's going to eat into Nick Chubb's work. But how much work did Kareem Hunt actually eat last year? Like nothing. None. We even saw Nick Chubb catch some passes before. It astounds me that people are so committed to the PPR format that they're going to overlook a talent. Because I'll tell you what, Nick Chubb is without question, to me, the best pure runner in the NFL. The best. And yeah, listen, I love the fact that people are against it. I don't know why they're against it. They come off really dumb when they start debating me on that, and I'll leave it at that. So listen, give me all the crappy odds on Nick Chubb you want. I'll take them every time.
Yeah, and the only thing I didn't like about your rant there, Howard, is that you put to me in there. You don't even need to say to me. Nick Chubb is the best pure runner. Like, he's had over 5 yards a carry in 5 straight years. No one else is doing that. Like, he is a star. And it's not just these odds that are good for Nick Chubb. If you look at the odds for the over-unders for everybody's rushing totals, number one, the biggest one, Nick Chubb, set over 1,200 yards. Vegas is willing to say this guy's going to have 1,200 yards. That brings back RB1 money every time. I mean, I've said it before that if you have a big money hometown league where it's like $250, $300 buy-in, draft Nick Chubb and you can hedge your bets. You can buy insurance. Just bet that he's going to have under 1,200 yards. Because if he has more than 1,200 yards, you're in a very good position to win that league. And if he has under 1,200 yards, that probably means he got hurt and you collect that insurance money. What, put $50 down to win 50 if he gets hurt? That doesn't feel so bad.
Yep. And I just want to address something that Dustin said in the chat, that he finished as RB6 last year on a career high carry total and close to career high targets. He still only had a 56.7% snap share. He was still splitting that backfield with Kareem Hunt. Without Kareem Hunt there this season, I mean, I know that I'm high on Jerome Ford, higher than most, but I still don't see Jerome Ford immediately slotting into that role and filling everything that Kareem Hunt did. I think that we see a lot more of Chubb as far as carries and targets go this season. And I disagree that that's his ceiling.
And you say close to career high in targets. His career high is 49 targets. And that was in a year when Kareem Hunt was there. It was the suspension year where Kareem Hunt played half the season. So if Kareem Hunt didn't show up and get 44 targets over the second half of that season, what does that number look like? Well, we're about to find out this year, aren't we?
Yeah. Hashtag chub it up.
Chub it up.
There's a reason my favorite team is nicknamed Chub Rub. But let's just do one more real quick here before this hour is up. But this one is one that really stuck out to me, and I'm curious to know what you guys think. Justin Fields at plus 2,200 is the first quarterback on the board. He's tied with Lamar Jackson, but he's above Patrick Mahomes, who's at plus 2,500. So are you willing to take a chance on Fields as QB7, or do you want the sure thing in Mahomes? Coop, we'll go back to you.
Plus 2,200 to be offensive player of the year. Now here's another one. This is another one of these tricks. Mm-hmm. This is another one of these tricks because Patrick Mahomes is the favorite to be the MVP, and it's very rare. Every once in a while, somebody has just a crazy season like Peyton Manning, 2013, and they just say, give them all the awards, give them both. But most times, especially in the modern era, they give MVP to somebody else, and then the voters give the next award to somebody else there. So I think that it's kind of a trap that Patrick Mahomes is beneath him, because it doesn't necessarily say he's going to be better. The reality is these other guys have much better odds to win the other award. Now, I will say that I'm drafting Justin Fields for two reasons. The first reason is the obvious one, because the rushing upside and everything. The other reason is because John Impemba said so. And that dude, when it comes to quarterbacks, he's right every single time, man. When he fades Baker Mayfield early on, when people were fired up about his rookie year and stuff, you listen to him. When he says draft Jalen Hurts in every league last year, you listen to him. And when he says draft Justin Fields, you listen to him. So if he's in on Justin Fields, I'm in on Justin Fields. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I was having a conversation with John on one of the shows, and he's like, what you should also take notice is look at the parallels between him and Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. I mean, if you take a look at the parallels there, it's like they went and they got him his number one wide receiver, just like they got Hurts his number one wide receiver. He was doing comparisons for rushing and first year, throwing yards and all that stuff. So yeah, I will definitely draft Justin Fields where I can, but I won't do it at the expense of Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that's just, one of the things. Hey man, we're just talking in relation to the question here, Coop.
I'm just shut up, man. I know I'm saying and I'll just this is such a sucker bet, though. It truly is. Like, they're gonna get people to bet on Patrick Mahomes to win an award that he's gonna win a better award.
He was at plus 3,500 on DraftKings like a week or so ago.
Right.
I'm so glad that Coop brought that up, because that was the exact thing that I thought. I was like, this is a sucker bet. Mahomes is going to win MVP, and then everyone's betting on him to win Offensive Player of the Year, thinking that he can double up. And John's in the chat. He put up a great stat. 2018 was the last time a quarterback won Offensive Player of the Year. So I think we reserve MVP for quarterbacks. The Offensive Player of the Year is for everybody else. And yeah, it is a little bit of a sucker bet. So this is why you watch the show, guys. We don't want you to get tricked by Vegas. We want you to keep your money and make money.
There you go. There you go. All right. We'll be dipping into more odds on awards, odds on props, and in relation to ADP as we go along. When we come back, I want to dive into something Britt created called Flavor Friday, ways to spice up and differentiate your league. So we'll come back to that right after this message from our friends at the FFPC.
Breece Hall right now, and I've talked to plenty of high-stakes players, I'm sure you have too, Kev. Had Hall not torn his ACL last year, he might have been the 101 in drafts this year. That's how good he was looking last year, and obviously with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. At the 305, running back 11 behind Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson, right ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Your thoughts on him as a mid-third round pick? How have you been attacking him? Have you been getting him at that spot so far this year?
Yeah, if I start out with two wide receivers, Breece Hall is right at the top of the queue coming into the third. If I knew he'd be healthy for week one, I'm still a little.
Well, he'd be going higher than the mid third.
Right. He may go 101. Well, RB1 at least.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know that. Even if he's healthy in spring and the summer, I still like if I'm running a team, if I'm the coach, I'm bringing him back slow. Like he's on a pitch count. Like I want him for the end of the season because I got Aaron Rodgers for the playoffs, right? Like even if he's fully healthy, I would work him in slow. But that is actually what you want. Like he's still going to get the high value touches. So yeah, if we know he's healthy, he's a first rounder. So like if he's sitting there in the third, especially when I get 2 wide receivers to start, I'll take Hall all day.
Yeah, it almost makes me think that the uncertainty with Breece Hall has made him unfairly fall too far, right? Like because we're talking about the team here in June. They're still hoping that he's ready for week 1. This is not, oh, we'll see what happens. Oh, we're taking it day by day. Oh, we're liking how he's coming along. No, they still think by week 1. And the fact that we have that timeline, I think, maybe bumps him up, especially as the drafting season gets deeper and deeper here in July and August. Maybe we start seeing him go up the boards as well.
Oh, keep the hat off, buddy. Come on. Let's see that haircut. You went and got that trim. Really? Look at that haircut.
Little lettuce there, dude.
What did you say?
I said I got the lettuce going today, dude. No, I'm gonna wear my hat. Right. Trimmed up.
What is that?
It looks good. That fade's nice.
Yeah, maybe I'll rock it to the Scott Fishbowl Boston live draft tomorrow. Whoa!
That's this weekend? Saturday or Sunday?
Mine's tomorrow. I wish it was a different day than the New York one because I would love to have done my draft and then driven over there to hang out with Wolfman and Colton and them, but same day.
Oh, such a bummer. I will say, speaking of Scott Fishbowl, I checked my phone during the break. Kenneth Gainwell got sniped from me. So Sellers and I are in the same boat.
Oh,
we lost out on Kenneth Gainwell.
Sellers didn't get Kenneth Gainwell and Scott Fishbowl?
No,
he didn't get. Oh no, he said in the chat somebody took him like 4 rounds ahead of him.
Yeah. So we're both
awesome,
gonna be sad tonight.
Sellers,
neither one of
man.
us got Gainwell.
The one guy, dude.
But let me figure out here. Where did I? Because I got him. I got him in the. Oh, look at that. Oh, Bender in the 17th round. Kenneth Gainwell.
I just like wearing a hat, Grande.
Yeah, that's juicy. The 17th is.
Yeah, no, you can put the hat back on, dude. We're not that upset.
Now the chat's getting to me. Unbelievable.
You know what the thing is that like you got that pasty white on the side, like you need some sun.
I got to get some sun on that. Yeah,
you gotta get some sun on that scalp. Yeah. What's the
this
back look like?
This is a toupee. Can we
see the reverse? What do we got in the back?
What?
We're just gonna have to get some tanning lights since we're doing shows all day, every day, so that we can get some sun because we are vampires right now. All of us are vampires.
I'm gonna get a little setup outside, a little outdoor setup. What do you guys think?
I tried to work outside today, but it was raining.
Oh. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Howard Bender, Britt Flynn, Andrew Cooper, right here on the Alarm Fantasy Football Show. We got a lot coming up here in this hour, including a giveaway. RTSports.com, $300 value entry into their fantasy football championships. We're going to be dropping a trivia question. Britt, you've got the trivia question handy, don't you?
I do. It's all in my brain, but it's also on the sheet.
Ooh, all right. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. Mark my words. But in the meantime, Britt's got a little Flavor Friday for us here. So Britt, talk to us. Tell us what it's all about here and how can we spice up and differentiate our fantasy football leagues?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it, and when you only play a couple leagues, having standard normalized scoring is fine. But when you play in as many leagues as we play in, playing the same format over and over and over again just gets a little bit boring. And so I started thinking about ways to alter scoring, different incentives to include in your league, different ways to structure draft strategy. and thought that it might be interesting to talk about that so that for the other people who play in a million leagues like us, that maybe make it a little bit more interesting.
All right. So
you didn't send me a fantasy alarm hat. Unbelievable.
I think I thought he was talking to me, right? That's why I was like, all right, here we go. Sorry.
I've been telling you guys.
My bad.
I got my tight end whisperer hat that Ani Coop made for me.
Yeah. Ani Coop made that. I love her even more.
Where was she in 2016 when the tight end whisperer first emerged?
I know, dude.
Thanks a lot, Ani Coop.
We'll have to get you one too for the brotherhood tight end whisperers.
Brotherhood of the tight end whisperers. All right, well let's talk about ways to kind of set things up. What give us some options here, Britt, that we can vote on. So I mean, maybe we just do a staff league and we spice it up that way.
Yeah. So one of my favorite leagues, I mean, there are crazy things that you can do. You can do bonus scoring for big plays, which I've done before. But my favorite different league that I've played in, it's my big money home league. It's a bunch of old former bartenders. If you're still in the chat, yes, I'm talking about you. And the commissioner is an ad guy. So he's constantly coming up with ways to change the league and make it more challenging. Among some of the things he does, which is adding positional IDP players. It's not just one IDP spot. You have 5 IDP spots. We also play one head-to-head matchup and one points matchup, meaning even if you lose, but you're still the top 6 in points, you can go 1-1. So it gives you a little bit more leeway to win, not just based on luck, or if you're, somebody goes off against you that you're playing with. He also awards trophies based on, for example, the highest scoring player of the week. And then he takes trophies away if you get a 0 on your roster or if you're the low scoring team of the week. So these trophies kind of act as a tiebreaker for the playoffs and can also help determine seeding and bonus fab going into the playoffs. So there's really a big incentive to continue playing throughout the season, to not just kind of cash out when you're like, oh, my team sucks, everybody's hurt, I'm done with it. And it's a really fun way to just keep everybody involved throughout the season.
That's pretty cool.
The trophy aspect I kind of like because, one of the things, and Justin Fensterman will tell you guys over and over how I make fun of him because he does like weekly payouts and he does, all sorts of things. And I said to him, like, you might as well just get a participation trophy for everybody. Like, what's, that's the part that I don't agree with. I do like trying to incentivize people to not give up. I don't want that 4-7 team to not set his lineup because he knows he's not making the playoffs. And, and you end up creating basically a bye week for a team that's on the playoff bubble. So I do like coming up with different ways to incentivize people, in that fashion. And the trophy aspect of it does that without affecting the pot. Like if you have, what I'm saying, if you have an entrance fee of $100, that's still going towards the winner of the league, as opposed to, the winner of the league wins like an extra $200 because you've made payouts to everybody throughout the entire season.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're going to do that, it has to be a big money buy-in league where the payouts are only a small portion of what the total is, right? Because it's like if you're doing a $50 buy-in and paying out weekly, it spreads it too thin. My favorite wacky rule that one of my leagues has is my hometown dynasty league. It's 12 my good buddies, and the rule is this: if one of your players gets released in real life while they're on your roster, you need to take a video of you chugging a beer and send it to the group chat. So
that's what I'm about.
Every August, it's a bloodbath when teams start cutting their rosters down. Every August, it's like people are like preemptively dropping players to waivers so that they're not on there. Like if somebody's going to get cut, you drop them before they get cut so you don't have to chug a beer. So it is pretty funny. And the roster is actually pretty deep in that league. So I think maybe once out of the last couple of years I escaped having to chug a beer, but usually you got to do at least one.
I like also just to not that I'm against chugging beers because I'll do it, no problem. I want to get back to what Britt said about the dual games, like getting the win for the actual win, and then getting the extra win for the for finishing in the top half of the league in points. I actually think that's like super important. I don't know if that's if that's a way to spice up the league, or at least just a way to just eliminate some of the luck. Because when you think about it, right, the schedule is not done with any kind of purpose. The schedule is just completely randomized. So there's no real rhyme or reason as to why you're playing these teams, unless you play with divisions and you say, I play everybody in my division twice, and then I have, other out of conference games or out of division games. But even that, I mean, it's just so arbitrary and such a crapshoot there, that I do like the fact of getting that extra win because of the total points. I mean, listen, I've been long championing the fact that points matter. I know everybody loves, it's head to head. It's just, straight up record against each other, things like that. But you don't play enough games in the regular season for that to really kind of take shape. Maybe if you're playing an 82 game season, well, then, you can kind of filter some stuff out there. But, if you're playing 12 or 13 weeks in the fantasy season, you have to factor in the points. And so I like that whole multi-win thing. And I definitely think that because I'm actually looking at creating a couple of new leagues, because that's what I need. I need more leagues in my life. But everybody keeps asking me about, doing new leagues, and I'm going to make sure that, that's something that I'm actually going to lock in there regardless, and just tell people, listen, this is how I'm setting up the league. There is no league vote on this. This is how we're going to track wins and total points, and this is what the playoff structure is. So spicy there, Britt. Spicy, and I like it.
You know what? And I have one more thing to say about that, because it was when we got our second dog. Sellers and I were playing a matchup against each other, and we were sitting at a bar. We were watching the game. The game went into overtime, and the bartender had said, well, you guys are so close together, I guess whoever wins gets to name the dog. And his player was one of those players who went into overtime. And I lost by 0.2 points because of that overtime. So he didn't name the dog. The bartender still calls the dog the same name that he suggested for her, but that's a different story. But that would have eliminated some of that pain of losing by 0.2 points in overtime.
That 2.2. Yeah, I was just going to say that the dual outcome type thing, what needs that is the home run derby, right? Like for
Julio Rodriguez 41 jacks, and then he still lost.
Yeah, crazy.
Hold on, Britt, put in the private chat, what's the name of the dog that the bartender calls him? I'm like, you guys keep like throwing these things out. You're like teasing, leaving me wanting more.
Right, more dog.
I won't blurt it out, but I need to see what it is.
Well, I'll just say it. So her name's Gypsy because Grizz, and then I was trying to figure out her name on the way back, and Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac came on, and I'm like, okay, we've got 2 G's. The bartender wanted to name her Fartbox, and still, when we bring her in to this day, and she's all grown up now, he's like, "Is that Fartbox?" He still refuses to call her proper Christian name.
I like this guy.
He just goes with Fartbox.
Yeah, me too. Listen, Sellers, he's like, we should have stuck with Fartbox.
Yeah, right. Such a great name.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Now you see again why I was so angry.
Britt's mad. She's mad. All right. Well, I think we could, do we have any other spicy ways to change things up? Again, the dual win thing is absolutely huge. Points, total points. Like the way I've set up my leagues is that the top 2 teams get a bye. The next 3 teams that get in are based on record. And then that last team is the remaining team with the highest number of total points. So even if that team is like 5-7, and there's a team that's, sitting there at whatever, 6-6, the 5-7 team has more points. They're going to actually leapfrog that person and do that.
Well, if I was going to start a new league where I'm the commissioner, here's how it would work. You play the year, right? Matchups, the whole thing. And then when playoffs come around, I personally look at all the teams and I decide what teams are good and make the playoffs. And I decide what teams are bad and those teams are out. And if you got injuries,
I'm sure that goes over real well.
I don't care if you're 10-3. If you have too many injuries, you're out. Your team stinks now. My teams are obviously always going to make it because they're just underperforming, but they're very good players. So that's how that league would work. It's the eye test league, my eye test, in my opinions.
Your eye test sucks, dude. Because if your eye test was in the whole like FSGA last year, I was sitting there. I lost Lamar Jackson. And then I backed him up with Ryan Tannehill, and I lost Tannehill. So there I am in the playoffs. Now, like also early on in the season, I lost Javonte Williams. I lost Rashad Bateman. And I like scratched and clawed and whatever. I got off to a really nice start, and then I scratched and clawed my way through the rest of the league. And then there I was, basically being carried into the playoffs by Travis Kelce. And I ended up winning the whole thing with like all-stars like Gardner Minshew and
Isaiah Hodgins. Like, these are my guys. So, my team would not have passed your eye test, and then I would have missed out on the playoffs. And then what happened, Coop? You would have been
a paper champion.
You would have been eliminated, and you would have deserved it. And someone with a better team would have won. Like, in my league, the best team wins. In fact, that's how the playoffs work too. And we just at the end, I just look at all the teams and I say, this team's the best.
Well, so speaking about best teams, I have one more little final idea for dynasty and keeper leagues that I think might be like a Super Bowl. I think that it would be interesting to have a side championship like every few years between former league winners. So if you win a league, let's say 4 years in a row in a dynasty or keeper league, throw a little extra in the pot for a separate competition and kind of make like an ultimate champion situation. It would encourage trading players, future picks, maybe keep those involved who are in rebuild modes. I think that would be super fun to have like a World Cup style dynasty league like every 4 years.
Wow, that is kind of wild. So like how you would have like say like 8 different dynasty leagues and the winners of those leagues all go against each other?
I would say probably like the champion and then the runner up of the past 4 years. So that you would have like an
within the same league.
Within the same league.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like there's all these different leagues and like the best dynasty teams that emerge from each league play each other.
No, like just the same league.
Ooh, okay.
That way it would like incentivize, and it would the bragging rights that would come from like being an ultimate champion against the other champions in dynasty leagues, I think would be really cool.
I would be insufferable.
I like you would.
I
know, right? He's already.
Yeah. You make me the ultimate champion, dude. I would just be buzzing around. That's why I can't.
That haircut's insufferable.
Oh, come on now, dude. Just needs a little sun.
No. I'm just envious because you got all that up top, and I'm like thinning up top, and then you just dismiss the side hair by just shaving it all off.
You don't need that side hair, dude.
All right. All right. So different ways to spice up your league. Again, these are great things. And listen, if you guys have questions about setting up your leagues or anything like that, listen, if you're a Fantasy Alarm subscriber, just hop into the Discord. Tag Britt, tag Coop, tag me. It'll be great. If you're not in our Discord, I don't know what the hell to tell you. Then you're an idiot and you're doing it wrong. What you can do is if you want to get into our Discord, subscribe. FantasyAlarm.com/draft guide. You can buy the draft guide on its own, sure, but you want the All Pro subscription because that gives you your Discord access. You get us, I mean, most people in our Discord just think we're here 24 hours a day anyway. So, there's always somebody sitting there. I wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, I check my phone and I'm like, oh, I'll just answer this guy in Discord right now.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of perks in the Discord. people this week, if you were paying attention, which I'm going through some of the messages, I was just checking them, and people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I missed this." If you were hanging out this week, you got there were 6 or 7 lucky Fantasy Alarm members that got to draft with me, Britt, Howard, and an actual certified member of Fish. I believe his lights are an incredible part of the show, and he's considered a member, right, Howard? Like a legitimate member.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, he's often referred to as the 5th member of the band, but yeah, my buddy Chris Kuroda was in there. He and his wife, I love them so much. They are such fantasy football junkies. It's hysterical. He was off. He had one day off from tour yesterday, and he was like, yeah, it's like my only day off in like 2 or 3 weeks of this summer tour. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. He's like, yeah, I want to draft. Just like, okay.
One day off.
Let's do it. You're one day off. You want to draft? Absolutely. And we
came to the right place, right?
What's that?
He came to the right place.
Oh, yeah, of course he came to the right place. He knows what side his bread is buttered when it comes to fantasy football. He's a member of the Fantasy Alarm family. So if you were in the Discord, you got that opportunity to draft alongside us. We're gonna have so many more drafts coming up here over the next month and a half before the season starts. So there is plenty on its way. Do we want to do our debate topic, or do we want to make one lucky viewer super, super happy? What do we want to do?
Let's make our viewers happy.
No. Debate first. Make them wait. Make them wait. I see you guys trickling in. Let's do this debate. I want people participating, and then we'll give somebody a chance at $500,000. So you're getting a $300 entry, and you get $500,000. They can wait 15 minutes.
Well, then they can wait 15 minutes while we debate, does PPR scoring dilute the strategy in fantasy football? Don't roll your eyes at me, Coop. I wasn't even the one who suggested the debate, but I'm saying
I'm sure.
PPR
it was me.
PPR scoring is archaic at this point. It's pointless. It's useless. Listen, I get it. Everybody wants a 215 to 187 score for their fantasy team. Does it really make it that much more exciting, or is it just a matter of the back and forth with your teams? PPR scoring really burst onto the scene when everybody was like, I didn't get LaDainian Tomlinson or Sean Alexander or Terrell Davis. And, we had these game-breaking running backs who were absolute studs. And these guys could win your weekly matchup just on their own because they were all like 150 yards and 4 touchdowns each week. I mean, it was insane what they were doing. So in order to counter that, the fantasy football community came up with 2 things. One was the 3rd round reversal, where that way that team who's, the team's picking at the tail end of the draft feel like in the 3rd round, they get that first pick in the 3rd round. And they feel like maybe that balances it out. But that really wasn't enough for everybody. And they've said that they wanted to go to PPR scoring, which, okay, fine. It increases the value of the wide receiver. It definitely does. And that kind of helped level things off. But here's the problem. We don't have Terrell Davis or LaDainian Tomlinson or Sean Alexander. There is not a single running back out there anymore. Maybe 2 years ago, Derrick Henry was that guy, but we don't have that anymore in this pass-happy NFL. So why are we still sitting here with elevated value for wide receivers, all right, and negative against the running backs who are being devalued by this way of scoring? So I think it's garbage. I think we're done with it. The game continues to evolve. The fantasy game should evolve with it. So if we've evolved and we've added the PPR scoring, we can certainly continue to evolve and remove it.
Howard,
I'm done.
You make a lot of great points. You sure do. But here's the problem that you run into. Anytime you have a young child and you give them something like carrots, when at that age, carrots might be your favorite, right? Like you love carrots, and that's kind of what standard. That
I hate the way this is going.
That's kind of what standard fantasy football is. And then once upon a time, that kid is old enough for Halloween, and the kid has candy. And once that kid has candy, carrots suck. And that's what PPR is, man. PPR is the candy. Now, I'm willing to work with you here, Howard, because now I'm an adult and you make a lot of sense to me. And there are carrots that I do like, but you got to put some like brown sugar or some butter or something on there. So, because I can't just go back to carrots now, brother. So here's where I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to do either no PPR or maybe even like 0.25 PPR, but I need that extra brown sugar. So I'm going to need, in your league here, I'm going to need points for first downs, maybe points for big plays. How about this? How about this is a rule that I actually really like that we have in my hometown league. 35 return yards is a point, right? And we actually enacted this rule as a Patriots hometown league because Danny Amendola kept returning kicks and punts and getting tackled at like the 10 or 20 yard line. And we'd look back at the game and be like, oh, Danny Amendola made a huge play that had a huge effect on the game, but it was worth nothing. He had a 90-yard return that you don't score touchdowns worth nothing.
Because it's Danny Amendola and he's worth nothing too.
But all right, but that's a big play. That's a big play. A 90-yard kick return is a big play. And I think it's worth it to give that player a couple points, right? If it's 35 yards a point or even 50 yards a point, right? You get 100 return yards. That's 2 points. That's, but you got to give me a little something on top because just regular old school leather helmet standard fantasy football draft, a bunch of little league umpires drafting at the bar like that. I can't play that game anymore. So it's got to be something else. Britt, are you willing to go back to the days of standard, or can we at least do like carrot cake? You know what I mean?
Oh, carrot cake sounds delicious right
Cream
now.
cheese frosting, so good.
That's what the Scott Fish Bowl is this year, where it is just like a bowl of cream cheese frosting. Like
yes,
points for whatever. Who cares? No negative points either, right?
Well, so I think that personally, I enjoy PPR, but I do think as a whole, as more people get into fantasy football, and we see it every year, more people joining their office leagues, more people do this. It's so easy to just be like, well, this guy gets a lot of targets. That's fine. I'm taking him. And people aren't looking at the systems. They're not looking at, defensive matchups. They're not looking at how like cornerback matchups, things like that. And I think that it just makes it a little bit oversimplified to draft. And then you start your studs. You talked about cliches on the Fantasy Alarm show yesterday. That's one of the cliches, start your studs. And then when one of the studs matches up with like a Sauce Gardner or Pat Surtain, people are bitching like, well, why didn't my stud get these points? Well, because you don't know the system and you're not researching the actual underlying game of football. You're just looking at numbers. And so I think that it's a lot more complicated than that. And people just tend to oversimplify it using PPR. And although we don't want people to be touchdown dependent, I think that's why we preach against touchdown dependency, is because PPR makes up for it. But why should, just some low ADOT guy catching, 4-yard passes equal the same amount as somebody who actually scores in real life? I have conflicting thoughts about it because I do enjoy PPR. But there are definitely some arguments on both sides. And I think that you both make very good points.
I mean, I'm not, aside from what Scott Frankel says in the chat, I'm not looking to just go back to standard scoring. I'm looking to get it a little bit more exciting, but I'm looking to take away that aspect that you just said, Britt. Like, why, really, Randall Cobb, right? Maybe Randall Cobb plays 3 games with the Jets, and in one game he catches 7 passes for like 40 yards. And all of a sudden, like that dude, that's worth 11 points there. What happens? You get a running back who rushes for 100 yards in a league with no bonuses, and he doesn't get into the end zone, and Randall Cobb is more valuable than that guy. Like, that's the problem that I have. And, and somebody said, Mr. Scampers is in there. What's up, kitty cat? Talking about half-point PPR. And yeah, okay. I mean, it's a decent compromise, but I would rather I would rather take away the PPR aspect completely and do things like what Coop was suggesting, points for first downs, or, something like that, that just, it makes players, it increases the value of certain players at certain positions, but without just going over the top, especially because the NFL is so pass happy right now.
That's why we got to do my eye test league, bro, where I watch all the games. All right. And some dude does a spin move. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, that's like at least 7 points right there. Right. Or like a hurdle. There's a hurdle. And you're just like, yeah. You look around the room at everybody like, what do you think? Like 11 points for that? Yeah, for sure.
That was super cool, bro.
Super cool, dude. There maybe should what about a league with points for like broken tackles and stuff? Now we're getting.
Well, but the problem is that now you have to go in and kind of figure out who's collecting all of that data.
That's Scott Fish's job.
We would be back to the
Hey Scott, if you're watching, Coop's got some work.
Fix it. Yeah, he'll figure out whether it's fair or not, and then Ryan McDowell will collect all the data. It's all figured out, dude. Those guys, the Jordan Loop will make the avatars. It's all taken care of. Don't worry about that part. Our job is to run the eye test committee. I think that's the hardest job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're in charge of everything. What we say goes. This is our show. What we say goes.
I would have a problem though being in Coop's eye test league, because it sounds like you have to be in the room with him when scoring goes on.
Well, if you want your players to get fair points, then yeah, you're gonna want to be part of those arguments, and there would be quite a few arguments in that league, I imagine.
Join the premium Discord and debate Coop's eye test.
Yeah,
fantasyalarm.com.
Yeah, good luck, dude. That's Find me on @CoopAFiasco. That's where I do my debating.
Unbelievable.
Eye test league.
So I mean, listen, people in the chat, they're all Better Boss says he likes the point per first down. Pass interference has to be incorporated. No, it doesn't.
I've got a lot of
with that, because that makes me so mad when pass interference gets called on a deep play, and that the guy would have had it, and then they get moved up, and then a running back just takes it and completely vultures everything. I think that would be very interesting to incorporate pass interference.
Yet another reason why Howard drafted Josh Jacobs last year all the time, because how many times have we seen Devontae Adams get stopped inside the 5?
Or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
In my eye test league,
interference there.
In my eye test league, vulture touchdowns would not count. Jamal Williams would have had 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts would have had 1.
The problem, Better Boss, is that you can't, nobody's scoring the point for the wide receiver. Nobody's keeping track of which wide receiver. The pass interference call gets done, but no company, no data company is registering which receiver it went against. That's always the thing that I think that people don't understand, and where we in the industry kind of have that, we should score for this, we should score for that. You have to go to who your data provider is and really kind of figure out what does get scored and what doesn't, right? Because the days of hand scoring, no. I don't even know if you guys know what hand scoring is all about. There I was sitting there hand scoring fantasy teams I was buying graph paper. I said, I don't even know if you guys know what graph paper is anymore.
I do have some graph paper.
I do have graph paper.
See, so there you go. It's not just for making clever mazes and stuff like that. You're actually using graph paper to kind of chart everything, and it got crazy to do that. So now to sit and add things on top of it, if the data providers aren't scoring it, well, then you can't add it in.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if pass interference if you got points for pass interference, then Torrey Smith would have been Jerry Rice. Whoever Joe Flacco was chucking it up to back in the day, that the Ravens, that whole offense is based on pass interference. So I do get the sentiment. There are a lot of situations where it is a good play by the receiver, but I don't know. That'd be a tough one. I've pitched an idea to Scott Frankel for their Vegas Scott Fishbowl draft. They should do an idea that I've had for a while called the pool, the purest form of fantasy draft. Everybody has to get in the pool, which means that no pens, no paper, no rankings, no computers. You're allowed to have a beer, and everybody just drafts a team off the top of the head in the pool. The purest form of fantasy
Oh,
football.
I would do that in a heartbeat. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, dude. And that test who really knows what they're doing, dude.
No
I
doubt.
love that. Well,
No
who's
doubt.
keeping track of it? Is it do we have an independent guy keeping track of it?
You got
like,
one
outside
dude
the
who's just
pool?
sitting at the side of the pool with his feet dipped in there, and he's just writing down names.
Nope. Afterwards, everyone just argues over who they got. You're like, I got Tony. I had Tony Pollard. I swear, I distinctly remember. Right.
That's why the beer is involved there, so you can kind of do that.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. Jack Senzen chimes in over at in the chat here. How do you feel about the SFB 13 no negative point system? I mean, I'm all for positivity, so I'm okay with that.
It's for this league, it's awesome. I wouldn't do it in my hometown league though, because you got to have control. You have to have some sort of, there have to be rules, right? Like, but in the Scott Fish Bowl where the rules are off and it's all fun and charity and positivity and craziness, whatever he says goes. It's our job to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm super stoked about it. I love the no negative points, and I especially love the inflated kickers, because how is that going to play into, your round 17 to 22 just dart throws versus some people who are actually out there every single game? I think that's going to be so super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great.
I like it. All right. Well, here's the discussion. Now we know that we don't let Coop set up the staff league. Somebody else has to do it. And
it would be the fairest way, dude. It would be the fairest
figure out that scoring. Yeah, the fairest way. The fairest way is just to get let's get Scott Fish just to create the rules for our staff league.
Honestly,
just have him do it. That way, none of us get to influence him much.
Probably the way
on that.
He's the best at it.
All right, folks. You've waited long enough. We're here for you. We've announced it earlier in the show here. We're giving away one entry here to the Fantasy Championships at rtsports.com. You can join on your own and just go to rtsports.com/TFC, and that'll bring you to the Fantasy Championships. I would personally suggest you go to rtsports.com/alarm and use the promo code alarm23 and get a little match deposit up to $200 before you sign up for the Fantasy Championships. But here we go. We are giving away a free entry to the Real Time Sports Fantasy Championship. It's valued at $300. The Fantasy Championship's a full season fantasy football contest. This is not best ball. This is full season fantasy football contest. Guaranteed grand prize of $500,000, and you get league prizes of $1,600. So if you win your league, your $300 becomes $1,600, and then on top of that, then you've got that the opportunity to win $500,000. Leagues are drafting every day until this contest sells out. You got to be 18 years or older. You have to be a legal U.S. resident. So with that, get yourselves ready. Get your Google machines ready. Get your keyboard up. Britt, Flynn, what is our trivia question for today?
Well, our trivia question is, who had the best rookie quarterback rating in NFL history? I'll read it again, just in case you didn't hear. But who has the best rookie quarterback rating in NFL history?
Ooh.
We should get some Jeopardy music.
I actually don't know if I know.
Has the record for the highest QB rating of all time.
I have a guess. I'm going to put my guess in the private
But you're not
chat.
allowed to guess, Coop, because
I'm doing the private chat. I'm doing the private chat.
Let's see. I see a Big Ben. I see a Vinny Testaverde.
Big Ben was
Britt,
my
you
guess.
stop us if we miss it. I got a Carlos Brown. I got a Dak Prescott.
Yeah. That was
Is Dak?
Which one?
It was Dak.
Wow.
It was Dak. It's Dak.
Well, Dak has the highest completion percentage of a rookie all time. So I'm not surprised that for that formula. So it looks like correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like Dustin in the chat
was the first one in.
So I want to just give a shout out to Jeremy. That was my guess, and that would have been the eye test winner. But that's actually not the correct answer, unfortunately.
Big Ben would have been the eye test winner.
So actually, So here's how it goes. Just Dak had the highest at 104.9. Robert Griffin III actually was second at 102.4. Then it was Russell Wilson at an even 100. Justin Herbert slid in there at 98.3. And then Big Ben rounded out the top 5 at 98.1. So those are your QBR rookies.
Not a single rookie Jets quarterback in that in that run there.
Vinny Testaverde, dude.
Where did Ken O'Brien finish? What about Richard Todd?
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't pay for premium on this stat site, so
so it doesn't go down that far.
It doesn't go down that far.
Yeah. I will say we know Dustin.
Yeah,
he's a very sharp fantasy gamer too. Not that the rest of the chat isn't, but Dustin, man, I could see you winning $1,600, somewhere between $1,600 and $500,000. I didn't know that the league winner got $1,600 right away, dude. I might actually.
Oh yeah, dude.
Might have to pony up $300 and get in on this. I just feel like 300 to win 1,600 and possibly $500,000.
$500,000. Yeah,
that's huge.
I do so much thinking about fantasy football that maybe I should get in some of these contests.
I say that every year too. I'm like promoting all these contests. I'm doing them all, and I'm not doing them all. I'm like doing all the promotions for them. And then by the time I finally like sit down and say, well, I should probably, set up my entries, it's like sold out.
Right. Yeah. These ones do sell out. Unlike the Best Ball Mania or whatever, like you can always get in that, but these ones do sell out.
Oh, see, Dustin, thank you so much, right? Tipping your bartenders here.
Look at that, dude.
Tipping your a little high five, Britt.
Boop.
Oh.
We get some fist bumps.
I love it.
There it is.
Britt, I actually didn't get one from you.
She doesn't want to bump your fist, all right?
Sorry, I'm multitasking. Okay?
Bump your own fist there, Coop. All right, so again, congratulations to Dustin. And again, folks, we're going to be doing giveaways here on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube page throughout the days, throughout the week. I don't even know. Better Boss is like, he's got like a little stash hiding out there. And he's just like, you know what? You're going to do a giveaway. You're going to do a giveaway. He's like Oprah with cars right now. You're going to do a giveaway. So we're going to have a lot more of these. But again, get in the action on your own because Fantasy Alarm, Fantasy Alarm is partnered up here with RT Sports, and we're doing some great stuff together. So the Fantasy Football Championship, the Best Ball Championship, these are all where you want to be. Even the Pick'em contest, right? You love props. I've been doing videos in the morning for baseball props that you guys can find. But on top of that, once football season starts up, we're going to be doing some sick little prop contests over at rtsports.com. So get yourself over to rtsports.com/alarm. Use the promo code alarm23. You got 100% match deposit for first-time depositors up to $200. So right off the bat, deposit $200, get $200 for free. Use $300 of that to enter into the Fantasy Football Championships. You will not be disappointed. All right, looks like the show seems to be winding down a little bit here. So Coop, how about we venture off into the wonderful world of the subreddit Fantasy Football channel and hit us with some questions. What do we got today?
Yeah, let's take a little peek at what these geniuses have cooked up for us. So this one actually, let's start with a borderline serious topic. Sometimes there's it can be a bit of a silly place, like spam a lot, but they do have some interesting thoughts every once in a while. This one I think is, especially this year versus many other years, I think this one is an interesting question. So user Tricknology asks, is best ball significantly affecting behavior in redraft leagues this year? And Britt, I'll go to you first on this one. Do you think the Pete Overzet personally is affecting redraft leagues with his amount of best ball that he's doing?
I think that people overemphasize stacking in redraft leagues, and we've addressed stacking in some of our shows this week. I think that people don't realize that in a regular redraft league, when you have to set your lineup every single week, that it's kind of a liability having somebody in your starting lineup with the potential to get hurt, whether it be the quarterback or the wide receiver. If they don't perform as far as offensive efficiency, things like that, it's a much bigger liability than best ball when if they don't perform, then your next best guy goes in and it's no big deal. So I do think that people are emphasizing too much on stacking.
I definitely think people are doing way too much stacking in regular leagues. And I think, yeah, best ball, that's the thing. Like, there are different strategies. And this is why I've always sat there, you know, and I saw Scott Frankel make the comment that he misses the mock draft army. I miss the mock draft army.
Rest in peace, gas doc.
What's that?
I said rest in peace to Andy Spiteri, the gas doc, man.
Oh, absolutely,
he was,
man.
Absolutely. A huge part of the whenever I hear mock draft, I think of the gas doc, man.
That's how the mock draft army is how Andy and I first met, and I brought Andy into the family. It was just unbelievable. I remember the moment. I think it was who was there was a Pittsburgh wide receiver that we were cracking on, and he used to refer to him as buttered stones because his hands were made out of buttered stones. The dude dropped more passes around, and I just I heard that and just lost it. On that in a draft, said it was great, said I was stealing it from him. He was like, definitely take it. I brought it to the show. That was, oh man, no, it wasn't Limas Swede.
Oh my God.
Limas who in the world would even think about drafting Limas Swede at any point? How deep of a league do you have to be in for that? But anyway, to the point here though, of the question, I do think that people just, they've replaced mock drafts with best ball drafts, and it's a different strategy. It's a much different strategy drafting in a best ball. There's a lot more stacking. For me, I love taking a lot of running backs early and then just playing receiver roulette. I think that, a lot of people don't do that because, they see the top receivers going off the board and then they kind of freak out about it. But, if you're sitting there and you're drafting a best ball team, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how consistent your receivers are, how elite level you have a guy. You get your running backs, you lock in the very few bell cow backs who are out there, and then you draft 8 wide receivers, and all you need is 2 or 3 of them to pop off in a week. So it's kind of like what your strategy was, Coop, with the running backs in the mock draft. You're like, if I'm going to grab high-risk running backs, I'm going to grab a bunch of them because I only need 2 to pop off for me. And so in best ball, it's even easier because you don't even have to make the decision. It just happens for you.
Exactly. And I'll add one last thing here, which is I think that so far I've seen it pushing up the value of quarterbacks. In best ball, in underdog, you have to draft 2 or 3 quarterbacks. And people have realized that, and in recent years, they've realized it's like a hybrid between redraft and superflex. You need 2, so getting one of the elite ones early pushes those guys up, and it's translating to redraft when it shouldn't. So that's one other spot where I think it's really leaking into redraft, and honestly, it's recognizing that is huge for us because we can see what guys are being pushed up and what guys aren't, and kind of fade them a little bit. So I'm not taking the quarterback in the second round, and I see people doing it just because you're doing it in best ball, and it's dicey. So also over on Reddit, let's see, user Arc Jump, he asks, you get pushed into 2030 for 10 minutes and you get 1 Google search. What are you looking for? Howard Bender, in 10 minutes. I mean, one Google search takes 1 minute. I don't know what you're doing with the other 9 minutes, but you have 1 Google search to make, Howard, in the year 2030 to bring back with you. What do you got?
Why am I still alive?
I mean, dude, I definitely.
If I'm making it to 2030, oh, come on.
But it's only for 10 minutes. You get to come back.
Yeah,
I don't want to be that old and alive at that time.
Howard, if it makes you feel better, technically you actually might be dead, but you've time traveled to that time.
I've time traveled. Okay, is Fish still playing? Is my wife still able to enjoy Fish shows? How about that?
I like that. That's nice. Britt, what are you looking at?
Man, I don't know. Oh, there are so many like weird conspiracies that I could ask that I think, are aliens real? Did we finally find the aliens?
Oh man, but how disappointing would it
I
be if
think
the
we
answer
know
was
that they
no?
are already, right?
Well, that's why I'm saying, did we finally find them? Did we finally find them? The lizard people, the lady on the plane, all that stuff. Did we finally locate the lizard people?
Dude, I imagine that's probably what you've been Googling like last night, drinking a couple, just like, what? You got one, Howard?
No, Sammy Coates. That was the
Sammy
receiver.
Coates.
Yes.
Howard, the receiver.
Howard gets to go to the future. He's got 10 minutes to Google, and he's searching for Sammy Coates.
I did. That was what I was doing. I was like, you're like talking about the Google search. I'm like, I Googled Andy Spiteri fantasy football perfect game. It was a beautiful article that he wrote when he was first diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And he wrote that. But then so I did. So I wrote that. His article is number 1 on that search. And number 2 is Fantasy Alarm, Sammy Coates fantasy projections, stats, and news. So, boom!
Yeah. I see somebody else with the Martavis Bryant guess. Yeah, they did a couple failed Clemson receivers for the Steelers. Jeremy with the answer that any normal person would probably have: most lucrative investments of 2025, and just get rich. Although I might even pick 2023. I don't know if I imagine having that info and sitting there waiting. I would just look up the Powerball, or
and that, my friends, is how he got the ability to time travel.
Right? Yeah. Oh, dude, now that I think of it, that's an interesting theory. What if the lottery is just a government created thing to catch time travelers? Be careful, everybody.
That's a hell of a conspiracy theory.
Careful out there.
Y'all know that, like, when Coop rubs that lamp and the genie comes out, Coop's the guy who's like, I wish for 100 more wishes.
Yeah, I get to the future. I get to the future in 2030, and I'm like, is the lottery time traveling? Is the lottery an FBI backdoor conspiracy to catch time travelers? And they go, no. And I'm like, okay. Woo. And then it transfers me back, and I don't have any information.
And then all of a sudden, like, you try time travel back, and the feds show up at your door right then and there.
Exactly. They're like,
it's like, you've got to tell me you're a cop, and then they don't actually.
Yeah. All right.
What's the jam band phrase? Show us your butthole. If not, you're a cop.
Yeah.
Just smart logic. So all of us managed to waste our Google searches. We only have do we have time for one more, or we got to be out of here?
We got about 2 minutes here. Go ahead.
Here's a real quick one. Josh Sawyer asks, which NFL positions currently have undisputed best players? So who at the position in the NFL right now would you confidently say is undisputedly the best player at the position? Britt?
Wide receiver, right?
No, which player? So for instance, with guard, I don't know if there's an undisputed best player, but at tight end, Travis Kelce is the undisputed. Are there any other positions that have one?
I'm going Kyle Juszczyk at fullback.
Ooh, that's a really good one. That is Patrick Ricard might pop in the chat and be like, wait a minute, dude. There's only that. I think that's a really good one, Britt.
Justin Tucker at kicker.
Yes, I think that's another good one. He also has a voice of an angel. I'll throw out Trent Williams. I think at left tackle, I guess you could make arguments, but I don't know if I'd accept any argument against Trent Williams. He is so good, and he's so mobile that he can get out in front and like run block. So I would say Tucker. Aaron Donald from the chat. That's another good one. Mahomes. Yeah, but what about Mac Jones?
What about Mac Jones? Now, on that note, we've got to get out of here. We thank everybody for tuning in. Hitting the like and subscribe button on YouTube would be a huge favor for us. For Britt, Flynn, Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. Have an amazing weekend. We're out of here.